Hey everybody, and welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and our continuing series on some of my favorite Dreamcast, NAOMI, and Hikaru games of all time. And today we're taking a look at Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Now, this is one of the instances where a game on my list would also show up on any top 10 Dreamcast games of all time list. This game is a game that's going to show up on top 10 fighting games of all times list, top 10 arcade games of all times list. If there's a top 10 list and it involves video games, you better believe that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is going to be somewhere on it. Before we get too far involved, though, if you give me a huge favor, go down below and hit like and subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down there as well. But right off the bat, this is just one of the best fighting games ever made, and that's not just my opinion, that's pretty much shared by almost anybody you'll meet who enjoys fighting games. Right off the top, even with all those unlocked characters not unlocked, the roster is absolutely deep, and the mix between Marvel and Capcom, there's a ton of good combinations you can make. Now, I always make strange ones, and I'm going to go with Jill Redfield here, because I guess I just hate myself a little bit, like using characters that aren't super prevalent, but no matter what configuration you use, once you learn the characters and really get into the game, you're going to find that this is just an absolutely 10 out of 10 outstanding fighting game. And I just love that they were smart enough to understand that what we really loved back in this generation were sprites. Now, I love all fighting games, and seeing fighting games in full 3D also looks incredible, but this was the perfect marriage between the 3D visuals of the backgrounds versus Capcom being able to make incredible sprite animated fighters. I would probably still say, and this is controversial, that I think SNK does a slightly better job with sprites. I mean, you compare these sprites to something like Geru Mark of the Wolves on the Neo Geo, and I might still say that SNK gets the edge, but honestly, it's 100% subjective. What I do love is just how much the stages are changing, and of course, we'll talk about the mechanics shortly, but for me, a lot of what I love about this game is the music, the artwork, the animations, everything that goes into making this feel like a real living, breathing world. Granted, I mean, my world and your world don't have cactuses that are sentient and can fight you, but it's just part and parcel of making this gigantic universe that you really do feel like you're a part of. And I love the special combination moves as well. They are much easier to pull off in this game than a lot of fighting games. I mean, that's just a one trigger input on the Dreamcast controller. But I do appreciate the fact that a lot of the specials aren't locked behind very esoteric inputs, because with some fighting games, if you don't dedicate a lot of time to learning them, you're never going to be able to pull off really hardy combos or a lot of those special and super attacks. And I appreciate Marvel vs. Capcom 2 allows you to do that with a little bit more ease of use. It's going to be a little more friendly to newcomers. And I've played this game a ton, but honestly, I probably haven't played it within a year of capturing this, just because I like playing a lot of fighting games with friends. And of course, with the pandemic, we don't get to see them that often. And while it is a ton of fun to play a single player, like any sort of fighting game, it's always going to come alive more when you're sitting around the TV with at least one friend, if not more, who wants to play with you. And that's why I really do appreciate how easy this is for newcomers. It's super simple to get into, but then actually mastering all the characters, all the different combinations, and all the fighting styles can get very incredibly deep. But even you'll see there with the zombie walking past Jill, I love how each individual character has their own kind of stylistic flair from the game they came over from. Because obviously Resident Evil has nothing to do with a fighting game, but because Jill is involved here, we're going to be able to see those zombies and those dogs from the original Resident Evil come through. And I think I called her Jill Redfield earlier, not Jill Valentine, so if I did, you can leave a comment and tell me that I totally botched that. There's so many names in the Resident Evil franchise, even I can't keep track of them. But again, I love the background. We're at a circus. We have this gigantic, creepy looking clown opening and closing his mouth in the background. It's just, there's something to see no matter what you're doing. And considering Capcom did an amazing job with the 2D backgrounds in a lot of the Street Fighter series, Alpha or, Hyper Championship Edition, the fact that they did this in 3D and it still has a lot of that visual flair is a really good job, because sometimes when companies go from 2D to 3D, some of the finer detail actually seems to get lost, but in this instance, it's absolutely incredible. And there is a sequel, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but for my money, this is where Marvel vs. Capcom starts and where it stops. If you're going to get one game in the series, make it this one. And there's tons of ways to play it. You don't have to own a Dreamcast, and you don't have to play this game on a Dreamcast system to be able to enjoy it. It's available for pretty much anything. So no matter how you play, if you haven't before and you're into fighting games, I 100% recommend that you do check it out no matter how you do it, because this is one of the finest examples of a fighting game ever to be made. And because it started on NAOMI and came to Dreamcast, this is where it came from, and I give credit to Dreamcast for putting this onto the market for us. What I'll let you do is watch the next match from start to finish, because I love the sound effects and music. I'll be back in about a minute to talk more about why you should play this game if you haven't. But enjoy. This game just really does have everything. The art is amazing, the music's amazing, the fighting mechanics are amazing, the soundtrack's amazing. From start to finish, there's nothing about this game that I would criticize, except that their Marvel vs. Capcom 3 wasn't as good. And that's not even this game's fault. I just wish Capcom had kind of kept it closer to what we're playing now. But I also love when you get a mirror match, Jill against Jill, because you can see what the computer does with the character versus what you do with it, which is to say, if you're not epically good at the game, you're going to see how bad you are playing. And I'm definitely not a fighting game channel. I love playing fighting games. I've learned a lot of the King of Fighters, but as far as a lot of other gaming franchises are concerned in fighting, I'm decent to good at some of them and bad at others. So this isn't going to be the best gameplay you're ever going to see. If you want to see a combo exhibition, just, look up on YouTube Marvel vs. Capcom 2 combos, and you're going to see some absolutely insane gameplay. But I like talking about the game from the perspective of somebody who can just pick up and play it, because I've been playing this game for years on and off, but I definitely am not going to hold my own against people who play this regularly. But that's the fun thing about fighting games, is you don't have to be incredible at them to enjoy them. I know a lot of people that like playing them that aren't that great, and I know some people that are probably better than me who don't really prefer the genre and would rather play something different. But if for some reason you've never played this game before, you can turn the video off now and just go figure out how to play it and just, maybe come back and finish it, or don't. Doesn't really matter to me. But do play this game, because this is Capcom at their best. I think this may be, to me at least, their best fighting game of all time. Now, I do love Street Fighter Alpha 3, and if you ask me another day, I might say that's their best fighting game they've ever made. But considering they've made so many, this game is going to be really good. And again, just the fun in the backgrounds. That's what I love about fighting games, even if the action is primarily button inputs. Being able to just take a quick peek at what's going on in the background is always fun. Now, we haven't even touched on, the tag mechanics where you can call characters in and out. That's also great, and on the Dreamcast, there's absolutely no loading and no hitching in this conversion from NAOMI, and considering Dreamcast does have less RAM, Capcom did a great job coding this game where everything is running at a full 60 frames a second, all those tag-ins are fluid, and you can have those different attacks from your teammates come in, and everything just feels great. If I was to find anything to criticize about this game, and it's not even a fair criticism to the game itself, is that you definitely want to play this using an arcade fight stick, which I was doing for my playthrough. The Dreamcast controller isn't the greatest D-pad in the world. You can 100% get away with it, but this game is really going to come alive if you have an arcade stick, which is exactly the same story about any fighting game. Playing with a traditional controller just isn't the best way to do it. But short of that, I can't say anything more good about Marvel vs. Capcom 2, because I'll just be here for 20 minutes evangelizing the game and telling you why you should play it. If you haven't, go and do it. And if you have, leave me a question or comment below. I'd love to hear what you guys think, where you first discovered the game, and if you still play it. Short of that, I'll be back next Tuesday with an episode in our Dreamcast series, and I'll have videos on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday as well. But if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. It definitely helps us out. But we hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye-bye. I'm going to lose from time.